Hello and welcome to Impact Africa, our online talk show where we get to speak to diverse people and organizations who are impacting lives positively. Today's episode is a special one where we talk specifically about Africa as part of the African Union Day celebration. And in the studio with me today is a special dear friend and brother, Mr. Sello Moloko, who is the co-founder and executive chairman for Thesele Group, who are based in South Africa. This is Mama K, Kemi Adebayo, and my brother.
Hello.
Welcome, Sello.
Thank you, Kemi.
Wow, so thank you first for giving the time, because I know you're a very, very busy person. So thank you for your time. Who is Sello and where was Sello born?
Sello Moloko was born in Soweto. So I was born there, I was raised there, went to school there, in a township in Soweto called Phiri.
Phiri,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so Phiri and Mabetla are the townships where I grew up. I went to school there. And then I matriculated at a local school.
Right. In the town, in the Phiri area?
In Mabetla.
Okay.
Mabetla. So Phiri and Mabetla are neighbors. So
right.
The school was bordering the two townships.
Okay.
So, so I finished school back in 1982.
82?
And so, like many young people of my class, I had ambitions of getting to university. The unfortunate thing is that I had the right marks to get into the universities I wanted to get into. The unfortunate bit is that there wasn't money. My father didn't have the money to take me to university in 1983. Okay. So I had a forced gap year.
Wow, a forced gap year.
It was a forced gap year.
Okay. And what was your position in the family?
I'm the eldest.
Oh, you're the eldest. How many are you?
I'm the eldest of four children. So
okay.
I've got one brother and two sisters. So
right.
Yeah, so of my mother's children, there was.
Okay.
I'm the eldest of four.
Right.
So yeah, so there was a lot of pressure and responsibility.
I can imagine.
Being the eldest, you had to be the example. And I always said to my father, hopefully I lived up to the expectations of being a responsible older brother. So I then found myself helping out friends at a local school.
That's during the first gap year?
In the first gap year, in 1983, I went to a school just to help in the afternoons, just to keep myself busy. At that time, I was avoiding getting formal employment, and my biggest fear was that the taste of money, of a lot of money, would make me lose my desire to go to university.
That's interesting. At that age, really?
Yeah, because I had seen it with a lot of people.
Right.
So they started working, a lot of responsibilities fall on their lap, and then they find it hard to get out of that space, and they feel the desire to continue to provide for family. So I was worried about that. And I remember sharing that with some friends that I wouldn't want to go and work in a place where they'll pay me a lot of money, because then you kind of get into that trap. So, and then at this school I used to help out with maths tutoring in the afternoons.
So you must have loved maths.
I did. It was my favorite subject.
Really? Okay.
At school, yeah. I mean, I enjoyed subjects like history, I enjoyed maths, I enjoyed sciences. So, but I think I would say, I enjoyed sciences, maths, and history. Those were probably the subjects that I enjoyed greatly at school. I also dabbled a little bit in art, but I was self-taught, so I did some painting, etc. That was my favorite pastime. In fact,
painting? I didn't know that about you. Really? You're multi-talented, my brother.
I could draw a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so I remember I went to visit my uncle, and then from my uncle's house we went to visit another family in Midlands. And little did I know that the gentleman that we were visiting is a very famous person.
Okay.
But I saw him as Uncle Stompy, you know. And it happened to be Stompy Manana. Stompy Manana is a well-known trumpeter, but I didn't know this.
That's at that time.
And he saw me with his son Gashin at the time. I was doing some drawing, and then he came out with this set of watercolors and he says, "Do you know how to use this?" I didn't know, because every time I did, it was just pencil and crayons, or you know, what do you call these things that you use to color?
Right.
And he said, "Try these." And he just gave me brushes and said, I didn't know how to use it, so I had to go and teach myself how to do that. So a part of me, you know, liked being in the arts, and I think everybody at home probably thought growing up I would end up
as an artist
or an architect, etc.
Okay.
So I think the course of action I chose in life shocked family members in particular. They were caught off guard because they thought, you know, here's an artist or an architect or something in the making. So in 1983, then after one of the classes, you know, I think I'd been doing that for a week. Then the headmaster of the school, I found him waiting for me one of the days, and he looked at me and says, "Are you Moloko?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he says, "Come here." So I thought I was in trouble.
Because when the headmaster calls you, surname and everything. Oh my God.
I'm 17-year-old gets called into the principal's office. And so he says to me, "So you're the one that's been doing the work, teaching in the class?" I said, "Yes, I am." And so he says to me, "Look, I'm a maths graduate myself, and I've seen some of your work. Would you like to get a job?" So I looked at him, because I wasn't really looking for a job per se, but then I was trying to keep myself busy. So I said to him, "Look, I mean, if you have an opening," he says, "I do have an opening." So he asked me, "How old are you?" So I told him I'm 17. I mean, I was yet to turn 18. And he said, "Oh my goodness, that's going to be a problem." So he asked me my grades for matric, and I told him, and he says, "No, you're good enough because I've seen your work and I like it." So he gave me a job.
Wow.
We didn't even discuss salary. So in fact, when I was hesitant about taking the job, he says to me, come here and help, you know, and don't sit at home and end up getting somebody's child pregnant."
Wise man.
So Mr. Somo was the principal then at Skanondwani, gave me my first job. So,
and what was your salary then?
In fact, at the end of that month, he gave me, I think he started me out at 160, and then they gave me 180 from then on. So my first month, I think I got 160 rands, and then for the rest of the time I was there, I got 180 rands a month.
As a teacher, 17-year-old young man.
Yeah, so I was given a huge responsibility because I had to teach, in those days, what you call JC or grade 10.
Okay.
So I taught grade 10, 11 and 12 maths. It was probably the year I've worked the hardest in my life, because when you come across grade 12s that don't have the basics, so you have to teach them the basics and get them up the learning curve to be able to be ready for matric. So it was quite a difficult year. Even grade 11s, but at least at grade 11 we got 2 years to prepare them versus the matric. And then obviously the joy to teach was the grade 10s, because you know there's not much damage down there, and so that's at last really where I thought I had the most impact. So
how did you end up in Cape Town?
Well, moving to Cape Town, so then in 1983 I applied to universities, and I think it is the year where it was very clear in my mind that mathematics was my strong point, and I didn't know what else I wanted to do. I didn't want to be an engineer, etc. And I said, I'm going to go to university to do what I like. And there was only one university in my mind at that time, even though I applied to other universities. It was the University of Cape Town.
Wow.
So
what was special about University of Cape Town?
I guess I was told, you know, in reading the little research I did at that time, that it was the best university in the country.
Right.
And I guess it was also far enough from there. so
You're like my son, and I did that a little bit, and my son did that to me, far enough from everywhere.
Distance from home, and back in those days, I mean, a 26-hour trip by train. It wasn't common to get into an aeroplane over 2 hours to Cape Town. So a 26-hour train trip was good enough for me to be away from home. And to be in a different place where you start a new life. You've got new friends, you develop new friends, etc. So the University of Cape Town accepted me. Within a month, I got a response.
Okay. And to study what was that?
To study a BSc in mathematics.
In mathematics,
yeah, so it was to major in mathematics. So I came to Cape Town after working for a year and saving a little bit of money to buy myself things that I thought were critical for a young person to get ready to come to university. So I came to university in 1984. So that was my first time ever in Cape Town.
Wow.
So I arrived at UCT. One of the saddest things about coming to UCT, I realized when I got here that I didn't have a place to stay. So
you left
to
come and you didn't really have a place to stay, but you just went.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think it was also maybe not looking into the fine print of the university offer, because you assume at a certain point in time that you have a place to stay. But the Group Areas Act at that time, which prohibited people of color from staying in areas that were designated to be white areas. Yeah, so I had to stay in a hotel for the first time in my life. There was a hotel on Main Road in Cape Town, just not far from College House. There's a residence called College House at UCT. So there was an old Landauer hotel which UCT later bought and called it Glenrose. So UCT bought the facility in 1985. So in 1984 I stayed at Landauer Hotel for 4 days, and then I found a place to stay in Guguletu. So I lived in Books for a year. So, and I think that was also...
So you were shuttling from...
Yeah, shuttled.
Guguletu, yes. Okay.
Yeah. I think it was also, as an 18-year-old, it was probably a strong, tough path to manhood. But such experiences make you stronger, wiser, resilient as a person. And I guess also they make you see the purpose that you've gone to university for, that you want a better life. You can't struggle like this and not come out with the degree that you're looking for. So I think it made me quite purposeful and resilient. So I passed my first year, and then the next year I got into university accommodation. After fighting the authorities at UCT a little bit. So they knew me in the housing. I think they got tired of me because I was literally there every month. You
need to move it somewhere.
Yeah, let's move back and forth. Because it was, you had to wake up a bit early. You couldn't spend enough time in the library. Also some of us, I did computer science and applied maths, where there was a lot of programming. So you had to use the computer lab, and at times you got to attend lectures in between. So it was challenging to be...
So let me now go to your career, because you've from what I've read, about you, and I know a little bit, you have you held directorship at over 28 diverse companies, from mining, property, and so on. So in terms of your career, how has the journey? Where have you, you studied at UCT, where did you go next?
So I think what happened is after my second year at UCT, I then got an invitation to study in the UK, to finish my degree at the University of Leicester. So I went to Leicester.
Did you apply, or was that just a random?
I didn't apply, so I just got an offer, which I think was based on my performance at UCT. So essentially, the Dean of the faculty
makes
at the time, Professor Linda, and the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Dr. Reed, or Professor Reed at that time, were the ones that recommended me to Leicester. So that's how I managed to get into the University of Leicester back in 1986. I think at that time my father said, 2021, what is another 18, an additional year to your curriculum at UCT? So I saw it that way, and I think it was also a great step towards what I call the journey to manhood.
Okay.
Because now you're in Cape Town, but you're still within the same country. You're still largely, whilst you're exposed to other cultures, first time you're living with white people, the first time you're living in a predominantly Xhosa environment, whereas in Johannesburg it's more cosmopolitan. All the language, but if you go into almost a homogeneous society, you learn some valuable things from there. But also getting into another culture that is predominantly white within the confines of the university kind of opens up your mind. But going into the UK, one got exposed to multiple cultures from all over the world, because the University of Leicester was the melting pot of many international students from Singapore, Malaysia, Canada, everywhere, Nigeria. So for the first time I came across people from the continent, because at the time in South Africa we were close to the rest of the continent. Probably the only contact I've had with people was people from the SADC region. But I've never come across anybody from Kenya. And you learn quite a lot of things. And I think also I became more exposed to the South African political dynamic,
right?
Having been there. So it was a great lesson that also adds to your social development as a person. So I came back. I finished my degrees in Leicester. I finished in 88. I did my BSc. Then 89 I did the PGCE.
Okay.
So I came back to South Africa. And I realized that soon thereafter that teaching was no longer an option. The environment was in schools was not, I think, amenable or appropriate for me. So I then I had heard about this Actuarial Science.
Okay. And
then I joined one of the firms called Alexander Forbes in 1989 as an actuarial technician, and that was my first job outside teaching. So it was my first job in the private sector, and there I learned quite a lot. In between I tried to write the actuarial exams, had some successes, and I think for the first time also I got to fail an exam.
Like some of us. At that time you've always been like up there, and then you're like reality.
So reality.
No, you were recommended, offered, everything, because you were smart, obviously, very intelligent. I still do.
No, it's true. So reality sinks in that, there's an expression in Sesotho, and then Sesotho at school, so that and I'll translate it that they say even the four-legged animals do stumble. A horse does also fall.
Yes,
it can run, but it also trips and falls. So no matter how strong you are, there's going to be a point where you trip and you fail, and you've got to pick yourself up and move on in life. So I've learned that also, failing at a certain step, you've got to redo it and come back and bounce back. So I think being in the actuarial field was also, again, something that kind of builds you up for bigger things in time. So after being in the actuarial space, it's only in 1995 I wanted to get out and get into investments.
Okay.
I was in Johannesburg at that time, so I'd gone back home, lived in Johannesburg, and then I got a job in Cape Town in investments. So that's when I moved back to Cape Town in 1996.
Okay.
So 2nd of January I got into my car. I'd given up most things to my family, and I took my hi-fi and small things and started a new life in Cape Town. So that's when I got to Cape Town to work for a company called Capital Alliance at that time. Okay. It was the first black-owned investment house. Started by an entrepreneur called Mzi Kumalo.
Okay.
So I joined a team that Mzi had assembled at that time, and I guess being part of an entrepreneurial setup probably was the best thing for me, because you learned so many aspects of business.
Of it.
Yeah, we made a lot of mistakes, but
and you learn as well from the mistakes.
You learn from mistakes. We made some. When I look back, we made some mistakes that maybe had one had other people kind of advising, we wouldn't have made them, but we did. We were a young team at that time. Okay. We built the business to profitability. So from 1996 until 1999, I was at Capital Alliance. It changed names at some point too. Right. It was taken over by Braid, so it became Braid Asset Managers. And then Old Mutual headhunted me in 1999. Okay. So I joined them in August of that year, and I became a portfolio manager. So at Capital Alliance, I had been promoted to be a director and deputy CEO. Small business, but I was deputy CEO there. But when I went to Old Mutual, I made a conscious decision that I wasn't chasing the title. I was chasing the experience. Okay. It was a bigger place, and where I wanted to get more, better training and better development, so that one can be a solid professional going forward. It's very easy to find yourself right at the top, but there's nothing that supports you being at the top. And it's very easy that when something comes off, you kind of drop down. So Old Mutual was a great place for me to kind of redevelop myself further. And that I did, and I think it was, I had probably one of the best times of my career at Old Mutual. The training, the development, the attitude of the people that was there, the environment was extremely supportive. And I think there are many like me who came through the Old Mutual School. You take Hendrik du Toit at 91, Jack Mitchell, there are many who came through the Old Mutual School. So I'm grateful to have been there. But I became a director, and ultimately I became CEO. I think it was announced that I'd be CEO in July of 2003. Though my stint as CEO was not very long, but it's not as long as I would have liked it to be. I found myself in a difficult position in 2004, and I decided to leave Old Mutual. I wasn't sure as to what I was going to do after leaving Old Mutual. Back in 2004, when in a conversation with someone, I kind of said, look, maybe I should do something entrepreneurial. And this is the CEO of Sanlam, Johan van Zyl, who said to me, look, we can back you. Initially, I said to him, well, I hope it's not a joke, and Johan said, no, he's not joking. So stories that we put a plan together, and Johan gave us 15 million rands to start the business. Right. And we look back from 2005 when we started this business called Thesele Group to what it is today. It has grown hugely. We've paid back Sanlam the money that they
started, like a seed money.
It was seed money, yeah. So they got back multiples of that money back.
That was which year, did you say?
We started the business. They gave us the money end of 2004.
2004.
So in 2005, we started operating our business as Thesele. We've done several transactions, and really the mission of the business is to create a diversified portfolio of businesses. Right. So an investment holding company. With the vision, obviously, of becoming a premier player in South Africa. The challenges with that is that whilst we had working capital, we had to pay salaries, pay off offices, we didn't have investment capital. So we are a strange animal in the sense that we've built this value. of being a business, worth in excess of R1 billion today, but with very limited capital, and that continues to be a challenge for us. I mean, it's and we have to continuously find clever ways of raising capital to be able to take advantage of opportunities that we see emerging in South Africa today. But I guess being in our space also leads to some elements of creativity. You've got to be adaptable and creative in the process. So we've built a nice team. The team, whilst I live in Cape Town, the team is based in Johannesburg predominantly, and we've built a team of very capable young people that are leading the team on a day-to-day basis together with my partner in Johannesburg. Obviously, I also serve, other than Thesele, which continues to operate, continues to look at opportunities, continues to look at ways in which we could raise capital to be able to take advantage of opportunities. I've served on a few boards, and that's why you see that list. But that list also includes companies that are dormant.
Okay.
Dormant companies.
Okay, I see what you mean.
We're not quite active in those. But
yes.
I've served on a few boards. I've chaired a mining company. I've chaired an insurance player. I'm chairing a second one. I also am involved with Telkom on the board of. I'm the board chair at Telkom at Momentum. I've been on boards of property companies, etc. So there is a breadth of experience that one has acquired over time, and that has been very helpful in developing one's mind to understand the different sectors, given one's mission to build this diversified entity. So, there is, the 7 years I've spent in the mining space has given me insights into the dynamics within mining. So one that does now sitting at Telkom gives one an understanding and knowledge of the telecommunications sector. So I have been very fortunate. It's been a wonderful journey, and I think a lot of where I am, I attribute it to a few factors.
Okay.
One is to borrow from Gary Player is what you call practice. So Gary Player says the more I practice, the luckier I get.
Right.
So as you know, the game of golf, it's all about the body, getting the body rhythm going and getting it to be consistent. And he says, when you talk about luck, he says, the more I practice, the luckier I get. And so hard work, being consistent at it, breeds its own luck. And also I've been fortunate enough to meet the right people along the way.
Right.
So along the way, the skill or talent in itself is not adequate to create success. One does need to meet the right people along the way to learn from, and for those people to make opportunities available to you. But it talks to also maybe personality. Maybe I've had the lack of being able to get along with people. Because I have seen some geniuses with inappropriate personalities not get anywhere. So that genius is lost because you can't get along with people, you can't make things work. Here I am thinking about the next move for where to for me, for Sello Moloko. And then somebody says, Sello, I think highly of you, I like you. They made a call on me at that point in time. I'll give you 15 million rands to start. That talks to the power of relationship and the belief that people have in you.
Yeah.
So I've been lucky in that. I've been lucky because partly also I worked hard, and that's why I use the get a player. The get a player saying. So I've been fortunate along the way. But I always say to young people, the one thing that gets you far is your attitude and personality. Yes, talent is there; it must be there, but it must be accompanied by that personality and attitude. If those two aspects are negative, success will not come unless you really come from a very rich family that has got all these things.
The money that you give to
then or unless you are an ultra genius like Steve Jobs. But even then, Steve Jobs at some point was without a job.
Correct.
And his colleagues had taken him out until they realized that they needed him. But so you have to be exceptional, or you have to be a Diego Maradona.
You
have to have that feeling that nobody else has in order for you to. But if you I'm not a Maradona or a Steve Jobs, so I had to have something else that would, and most of us aren't there, so we kind of sitting on the bell curve on around the average here. So we're not sitting on the extremes there of this extreme of geniuses. So from that standpoint, it is very important. The relationships I have found are very important in this space. Attitude is very important, and I have been lucky enough to be able to have people that would be willing to back me
and believed in you.
And believe in me, and I think we all need that in life. I was lucky. Growing up at home, I had my dad. He believed in me. He kept on
pushing.
Pumping the message to me that I can be anything I want to be. And, I had the belief, even though maybe sometimes I doubted it, he'd always be, this is it. This is my son, and I believed in him, and that's great. And I've had many people like my father along the way in my career who believed in me, who backed me. So from that standpoint, it is great, and everybody needs that.
Definitely.
But you also need your critics.
Correct.
You need your critics, and I have a lot of those. And one of my biggest critics is my wife. She has a way of being on the ground.
Yeah.
On the ground.
Out there, you're like the boys like
no out there. Yes. And I think my dad was also a bit like that.
Right.
So there is a lot to be said for humility. Having your feet on the ground is a very important thing. It costs you nothing to be humble.
Correct.
Contrary to what people believe, arrogance has its own price. And part of it you see today in South Africa, we have the Zondo commissions of this world.
Yeah.
And you see a large part of people that are in trouble were people that felt untouchable and arrogant at some point in their lives. So there's always value in humility, because it makes you see the world for what it truly is. You don't, it sobers you up and makes you realize there is the real world. And that real world is not only the world that you live in of high flyers, etc., but there's a world of ordinary people, and ordinary people that need you as a successful person. One of the things that I was taught by my dad was that, you have the talent, God gave you the talent to understand numbers with ease.
Okay.
But also, the Lord gave you the ability to explain it to the others. Now, if others are coming to you to seek that help and that explanation, why don't you use the talent to help the others? So he really struggled at some stage when I was hiding from a guy that came to visit me at home and he needed help. The guy was struggling at school. When I asked my father, please tell him I'm not here, when the guy walked in, my father said, he is here.
I'm not covering up for you.
No. And after 2 hours I was with that guy, the guy went home and said the guy cannot travel a distance of 2 kilometers to come to you for help, for nothing.
Exactly.
You must never ever do that.
That's a great father.
And yeah, he was helpful because he actually was a person that was there for people, He didn't have much, but he was there for people. And so as a result, the little I have at times, I believe in also sharing with others. And partly, as I don't have much, but as I go along in life with the little that I have at any stage of my life, I say, what can I do to help the young person, to help that needy person that is out there, and that person that doesn't have a father that can pay for them. Because I've seen the value of education and what it did for me. And there are kids who, at that point in time in their lives, they're smarter than me, they're smarter than what I was at school. They're far more capable, and all they need is a lift. Some of them, all they need is a lift of conversation. Some of them need a lift of 100 rands. But it's not everybody that needs money. But we all know what money can do.
Correct.
It can make all the changes. So I try in my own way to do social upliftment. Some of the things that I've done through golf and other initiatives where I try to see how we can change the lives of those that are less fortunate. How can we actually, because circumstances are what they are, but how do we give them that boost to do that? So I still feel very strongly and attached, and maybe the teacher in me remains to say there are those kids who are clever, but they've had the wrong teachers. And then there are those kids that are capable, but they don't have the right resources. And some of those resources need a little bit of money to kickstart them, or they need a shelter, and that shelter needs money for them to kind of move and themselves. So that's why at Thesele, when we started Thesele, we also said we are going to allocate a percentage of our equity to a trust, and that trust will do all the good things. That's why we built the Thesele Foundation, which remains a shareholder at Thesele Group. Right. So yeah, we remain committed in our small way. Obviously, if we had a lot more money, we would be putting a lot more into that foundation. But we often invite friends to say, can you help us go on this particular journey of making this particular change?
Journey, there from being a technician at Alexander Forbes to becoming the chairman, which you didn't mention, so you worked your way up, and Old Mutual, Thesele, and a lot of other, sectors, that you've been involved in, and using your hobby, as well to put back, to do things through the foundation and other stuff that you do. You shared with us there some of your qualities as well, and I'm just fascinated. That's why I didn't really want to stop you there, because I was just fascinated with, some of what you were saying, with how people believed in you. You said luck there. I would rather say hard work, as well, and the qualities, that you have. And I'm sure one of the strong qualities it's probably integrity, that you have. So what would you advise a younger fellow, in the township from Bugule to today in terms of a career path? Just what kind of advice? Based on some of the mistakes you said you've made and, how you've been hungry to go out there, what would you advise a young fellow from Bugule to today?
Yeah. A young person from Bugule to today that I would advise is that there is no one way to get into success, because success comes in different ways for us. But I would always say to any young person, use your strengths to get yourself somewhere. I started out studying mathematics, and those who were doing engineering and other courses in my time have criticized me for it. They said, "But why is a capable guy like you only doing a pure science? What are you going to do with maths? You're just going to be a teacher, etc." But the one thing that I did is that I went and did a useful degree in a field that I enjoyed.
Right.
So I always advocate that people must do what they are good at. And we shouldn't chase things that we are not good at.
Because somebody else is doing it.
Somebody else is doing
yes.
it. I always
or your parents even forcing you to do it. Because your father could have said, you know what? You're good without.
Exactly.
Or
I saw the marks of a young person, first year marks, who's at vet. I haven't met the young person, but as soon as I looked at the marks, the person is registered for a commerce degree. But the one thing that I noticed was the maths and statistics marks were way off scale compared to the commerce and accounting that he studied. And immediately I said, and I looked at his matric marks, and I said, immediately, this guy's in the wrong place. Yes, he's passing the accounting, he's getting 60s and 70s, but he's getting 90s for the mathematics. So this is a person who should not actually be trying to study to be chartered accountant. They'll probably make it, but it's not their natural calling. So I always say, go into a space where you're most gifted.
Right.
Whether it's singing, or there's a music school at UCT, whether it's dance or anything, just go out. If you're not sure, if you haven't received proper guidance, go out there and do what you're gifted at. And secondly, find somebody senior to you who is more successful. Get a mentor. And get somebody who will make time to sit down with you, that you can ask all kinds of questions. I didn't have that. I had my father, but my father was limited. He didn't finish high school. Was limited in his education, even though he valued education greatly. So get yourself a mentor. So the third thing is hang out with people better than you.
Right.
Yeah, your friends. Yes, we all have friends in the streets, but at some point, as you grow older, you choose people that are better than the rest. If you don't find them in your neighborhood, there's always another neighborhood where you'll find better people, and you will get criticism from those in the neighborhood. But eagles fly in the sky. They don't.
Yeah.
They're right up there, and if you want to be an eagle, you want to so always perch yourself in the next level of people. I had great friends, and they were determined. We were all ambitious, and we all wanted to be better, and so it's very important to keep that network. So find a mentor, somebody senior that has done well, and let them guide you. Find better people to hang around. And follow, what really excites you. So, and you should not be ashamed to aspire for bigger things. There is nothing wrong with that. And whilst we need to be humble in the process, it's about finding that balance. Humility does not mean now you have to lower yourself.
Yeah, you have to sell yourself.
You have to sell yourself short.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be selling yourself short. So that would be my thing. Yeah, and as I said, there's nothing wrong with being very clear about where you're going to. And at every stage, as you go, there's this thing I call an S curve. It starts like this, it goes up, and then you may reach a point where the S plateaus. When you reach that S, is to say, how do I create another S?
Right.
So you have a series of S curves as you go along in life, because
I love that.
and at every point you find that you need to improve your networks, you need to refresh your networks, because then newer, better network can get you to the next level.
Correct.
So there is, so if you're ambitious and you want to get somewhere, it's always good to have a few people better than you. So if you look around your networks and
you're better than the ones you are, then you have a lot of work. You have a lot of work.
You have a huge problem. If you always are the best
in your
circle of people, and the people always hear your voice, and you never get to hear other voices, you're on a path to failure. Very fast path.
Powerful.
So my sense is that at any stage in your life, there must always be somebody that you really look up to, that you can go and say, I'm going to visit so and so, and out of them, I'm going to get something. I'm going to get some,
not necessarily money and things like that. But
people who go to church talk about spiritual nourishment.
Yeah.
And I talk about intellectual nourishment. Where you're going to this person and you're going to learn something. And when you come out, sometimes you don't realize you've learned anything. You pick it up when you're faced with a situation and you remember, I want to see Mama Keneilwe. And goodness, this is what she said at that point in time. You don't realize as you engage other people to see how much learning is taking place from them. So that would be my sense, that we all learn formally and informally. And it's always very important. So networks are, I would say, the single biggest. It's one thing I've taught my kids. I've actually emphasized the power of relationships and being with people that they look up to.
Wow.
At all times.
I could just keep listening to you all day, but I know we are almost out of time, but I want to really ask this one. Maybe that will be my kind of a final one. Africa. Let's come to Africa.
Sure.
And in terms of celebrating Africa, in your view, what more do you think can be done? To address some of the common challenges. We know poverty, we know corruption, and things like that. I'm always about the solutions. What are some of the solutions? What can be done more in Africa?
Sure. Africa is a sad case of the management of resources to create opportunity. If one looks at other parts of the world that are ahead of us, the Koreas of this world, the Singapores, the Japans of this world, they don't have much in terms of resources. But what do they have? They have something Africa has in abundance: human resources. And through the development of human resources, have they been able to leapfrog Africa, which has the human resources and the natural resources. But they've been able to come to us, get the natural resources and take it out. Whereas we're sitting here with a lot of human resources that we have not developed to the fullest. Maybe the resources on the ground are a case for us. But I guess an Africa that is more orientated towards developing its people. I like what I had seen in Zimbabwe, at the time when Mugabe got in, was the development of human capital. was very important, but I suppose the political instability that ensued became a problem, but he was on the right track. Kagame seems to be trying to find that balance there. So I'm saying an Africa that is very focused on creating a climate where humans can be developed, and a climate where those developed human beings can thrive and practice their developed skills, would be a very different Africa. And when leaders, and I'm talking about leaders across the board, from politics into the private sector, are really focused on developing their countries. The key, really, for me, is in the development of that talent, because that talent will take you everywhere. It's a more sustainable way. So the unfortunate thing is that in some of the African countries, because whilst we develop the talent, we don't make the environment conducive for the talent to express itself. It all goes away. So if that talent and believes that this is a place where it can express itself, etc., it will dedicate itself to further development of the regions where it resides, and it will keep its resources there. So unfortunately, what is happening right now, and we see it in South Africa, we have some of the best tertiary institutions, yet we see more and more of the talent that we developed and the IP that we developed leaving. So, so the exodus of the skills, going outside, doing things, and then those things come back to us in the form of finished products. Some of our IP that gets developed here comes back to us very expensively. Whereas had we created a conducive environment for it to work, it would have worked. And so that's the unfortunate thing about the continent. It's one of many things. It's not the only
Oh no, I know. Oh yeah. Oh, we could talk all day and have 3-4 hours.
Sure.
Well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. And I've learned a lot as well from this conversation. And I know, yes, when we see each other, we're chilling, and so on. But there's a lot in there that you're doing. And thank you for all the work you're doing in the communities. We could even have a whole program on some of the work that you've done, and some of the people I work with in Kalicha, like Manyana School, that benefited from in Johannesburg, your previous school, and other places that you've been through, the network of people you have, trying to better the lives of the ones who are needy, and using education, entrepreneurship, and support, for those people. So well done.
Thank you.
And thank you, for all you're doing. So in closing, what would you like to share or say to our viewers, like an advice or anything, a final thought, anything you want to say, please, in closing, in your words, please.
Look, I mean, it's as I said earlier on, success comes in many forms, and as I've said, it's about doing it's about being honest to yourself. And doing what you're good at. But in doing what you're doing, there are very few people that come up with completely new paths. And those who do come up with new things have learned something from somebody. We talk about great people like Keneilwe. He learned something from Copernicus. We talk about Jesus himself. He learned something from John the Baptist. He learned something from Moses. There's always somebody that you can learn things from. And what is important is making sure that you find those right people. So that's not one person, but it's several of them that we can suck a lot of information from and get advice from. So I'd always say, the biggest point to success is finding that person that you look up to. Even the greatest figures in the world, Shara, the great Shara Zulu, had a mentor. It was Tiniswayo of the Bateto. Every great person has found somebody that they looked up to and learned from. So that's, for me, one of the biggest. And unfortunately, you're talking to somebody that did that very late in life. But it's never late to do it. But if you can do it at the age of 15, do it, and don't be shy.
Wow. Well, that's why you're one of my mentors, although I don't even have, you don't have time for me.
We should make time.
You don't have time for me. When I'm supposed to come and sit with you and I'm like, to come and learn more, But thank you, there's a lot, that's been packed in there, a lot. In fact, you could write a book. In fact, you should write a book. You should write a book.
I'm trying to write something on my favorite sport, which is football.
Oh, football?
Yeah.
Okay.
I grew up.
No, because you're an avid golfer.
I love golf. I played golf. I started playing golf only when I was 41. 42.
Okay, at a later age.
Football is the sport that So
I didn't know that bit. So football is actually really. So you want to write, or you've started writing?
I started writing a little bit on one of the stories in South Africa, but it's something that I'm trying to do on the side. On the side, that's an hobby, because you're a serial entrepreneur and into everything. But it's amazing, that for somebody like you who have and you're very humble, I know that, and I'm not just saying that to you. You did say your wife keeps you on the ground and so on. However, your humility is amazing, because you've had motivational talk in the township and things like that. We could go on again, and I know I'm being told now that we need to stop. But you keep learning and wanting to do things. So I'm just telling our viewers out there, especially the young people, find a mentor, power in a relationship, what other term? Eagles fly in the sky. You've just come up with all those things, for me, that are things that could help. Even if it's one life, for me, that we manage, or you've managed, to speak to, and that get something, out of that. That's something. It's an achievement for both of us. No, thank you.
So keep doing what you're doing, and keep putting back, keep being there, keep keep giving of yourself.
Thank you.
And I look forward to more of the work you're doing, and maybe a follow-up conversation as well at some point.
No, thank you, Kenny. Thank you very much for the work that you do. You've come into our country, and you have seen a need to make a difference. And when you find a dent, you're trying to fix it, and it's not many people that do that. And it is something that I just also wish to express my gratitude for. So
thank you. You remember one conversation you had? You called me. I think we finished an event. I have to share this one. We finished an event, and you called me and said, "How can I help you?"
Sure.
And I was just, I don't know. I was just like, what word? I can't even think of a word to use. I was just like, wow. It just made, even just saying that, even if, for me, that made all the difference. That how can I help you? And I think we need to be doing more of that as well. Exactly. And sometimes it's not money, it's time, it's, connection. It's about, have you thought about that? Have you done that? So thank you so much, my dear brother. We've made you a chief, Mr Sello Moloko. I keep telling you, yes, you're a chief. So thank you again for your time, and we appreciate you. We pray that God will keep giving you the grace and His mercy and the blessing to continue to be a blessing to others. And I look forward to a continuation because there's still other things I want to ask you. So I'm going to be back.
That's fine. That's perfect. Thank you.
That's perfect. Thank you. So guys, well, that's all we've got time for. I know we've gone past the number. Remember, this is a special series, that we're doing. So we are allowed to go way, over the time that we normally do. It's been a blessing, to be here. And remember, till next time, stay safe, stay blessed. God is love. Love you guys. And it's Mama K signing out.